Well, I'm Matt Cook. I'm with Leatherstocking Natural Gas, and basically this is Brian Siraki. He's with our engineering company, EES Engineers. And essentially what we wanted to do tonight, and it's as long or as short as you guys want to make this, but it's more informational. It's more just to get you guys up to speed with where natural gas is for the town of Bridgewater, Township of Bridgewater, and for the borough of Montrose, and to try to just give you guys some ideas so you guys are up to speed, you know what's going on, so you can answer any questions that come along.
I have a question.
Yes. That was quick.
Well,
I didn't even say anything.
I travel one of the roads back and forth every once in a while, and my question is, while you're digging up Waterford Road, why aren't you connecting to the homes that are right there all along right now?
While we're doing that, that's a mechanical reason why we're not doing it right now. A couple of reasons. One is we did not have all of the DEP permits yet in place to do the services. That's number one. Number two, when you're putting in a gas line, you got the pressure, you have to pig that line, right? Then you also have to pressure test that line. And so you don't want to dig down, or you don't want to put the service tees, the service saddles we use, clamp onto the pipe, and then you have to tap it, and when you tap it, you actually run something down inside the pipe, and it stays down inside the pipe. So once you do that, you can't pressure test it easily. You kind of lose the chance to pressure test it, plus you lose the chance to be able to pig it. So you come back and put the service tees on second. I know that's a good question.
Well, I had a bunch of people ask me.
Yeah, exactly. Why not do it then? But the other part of it is, you know, it's a cost of having to, if you go in and put a service saddle in on every one of them, of course that road's not heavily populated.
Right.
But if that were heavily populated, we'd have to put one on every one of them. Not everybody wants natural gas, you know, so it just becomes a cost factor at that point. I know. The problem with it is, the downside of that is we got to go back and dig a hole for each one of them. The beauty of that is there's not heavily populated, so it's not going to be that many holes, at least not right now.
What kind of pressure are you carrying on that?
124 psi is what the pressure is. So we want to show you a couple of different things. We want to show you the phase 1 process that's going on right now, and then show you what we're planning on for phase 2, and then talk to you about future phases down the road. Phase 1, as you've all seen, is being constructed right now. In fact, it's 95% complete. I think they're almost done. There's a couple of small directional drills that they got to finish. But you all, if you haven't seen it, there is a small gate station, what we call a gate station, right down here on Montrose Road, down at the base of the hill below the compressor station. Compressor station sits right up in here, and our little gate station is right down on Montrose Road. What that does is that's going to reduce the pressure from 1,000 psi, 1,200 psi, down to 124 psi, and that's what's going to be run up this line right here. That also has a meter in there. That also has some filters, and it has an odorizer. As you know, and you might have heard during previous demonstrations and talks, you've got odorized natural gas as it comes out of the ground, unodorized, and so you've got to put some odor into it. And so that's what that station will do down there. And then you've seen the line being constructed. It comes up Montrose Road onto Turnpike Road, turns up Waterford, and right now they've got it all the way up Waterford. It turns up onto Old County Road, crosses 706, back onto Old County Road, up onto High School Road, and then stops right out in front of the driveway out there across from the hospital. We have the service connected at the hospital as we speak. We have the service connected at the high school as we speak, and we've got to do some final work up on the high school over the next couple of weeks. But the intent is, in fact, everything's in place today to start the hospital on compressed natural gas. And the reason we went, I don't know if you've been out there, but there's a big truck sitting out there on the new road that they built for the hospital. They've got a truck sitting there with compressed natural gas in it, and the reason that's there is because we weren't done in time in order to get them the gas that they wanted in time. I think by tomorrow they're going to be taking that and using the compressed natural gas in order to start their system up and get the boilers running and the water heater and all that kind of stuff going. And then once we get our system up and running in the next couple of weeks, then we'll just shut that down and bring natural gas up to them. The high school, we're looking to connect them by the end of September. somewhere in there, and it'll be ready for us by then, so it's going along pretty well. Then the intent is, after, our goal is to get those two on and get them running. After that, then we can start, well, after that, we've got to finish up this piece of pipe going out 706 towards the borough. And then we also have to do this piece out to Tree Hab. And from what we understand, Tree Hab is looking for natural gas sometime in January timeframe of 2014. So we wanted to concentrate on the main line first, got that in, and then we can start to do these, and then we can start hitting services along the way for those customers that want natural gas service on that main line.
So when you're going to come into the borough, are you going to come in on 706?
Well, right now we're setting ourselves up with the gas main facing west, right there by the lake, and we're going to dead end it there for this year. And it gives us the option of then coming that way. That's where we then talk about phase 2.
The reason I'm asking is, we're in the middle of a 706 rehab project. So instead of you coming and digging up 706 after we've just paved it, wouldn't it make more sense to go up Lake Ave? And then go up Lake Ave and then go down to the courthouse from Lake Ave?
Yeah, possibly.
Because that hasn't been torn up.
That hasn't been torn up.
And then we can get that repaved.
We've got to look at that, absolutely. And I apologize, we came in late in the game last year, too late to get down here
under there
before they did all that work.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't.
We need Lake Avenue paved anyway, and it runs parallel, and it would dump you at the courthouse.
Well, so here is what we're looking at. What we've got to do next year is get into town with something, a bigger line. And really the 3 areas that we're aiming for next year, this is just 2014 is what we're talking about. The 3 big areas we're talking about is getting gas to the businesses down here on 706, getting gas to the elementary school, and gas to the business area right here in town, or in the borough. So those are the 3 big areas we're shooting for. Anything along the way, any customer along the way that wants gas at that point, after we get something in to do that, we would feed them at that time too. So what DES has looked at and worked on is a couple of different, I don't know if you want to pick it up and take it, but they've got a couple of different routes. There's a red route and a green route, if you want to call it that, with a couple possibilities of, running this way instead of this way. I mean, there's a couple of different options that we can run in order to get to those 3 big areas.
Right, you'd have we're kind of option 1 and option 2. The northern option is Lake Avenue, which is, that's what we saw when we drove, it was the exact same thing as what you were talking about. The southern route is a state route option, and to be honest with you, what Matt and I have been discussing is it's probably going to be some combination of the 2, because there's so many customers along 706 that are going to need service. You're probably going to end up with I'm just guessing right now, a piece coming out Lake Avenue, maybe a spur coming off and back feeding this way, staying on one side of the road or the other. Some combination of those 2 routes in order to service everybody that wants gas. The interesting thing is once you get into the public square area, obviously you don't want to go right up Public Avenue, so we were looking at kind of encompassing that whole square from behind and looking at getting gas service into those buildings from behind. This way it doesn't disturb right in your center.
Most like facilities.
So what kind of money are you talking about for private residents to hook up to the gas?
Well, for a typical private residence in here would be no cost.
No
Would be
cost.
no cost. But the reason being is Public Utility Commission, PUC here in Pennsylvania, allows 100 feet of gas main, and 100 feet of gas service at no cost to you, to the customer. So if you're within 100 feet, let's say there is a main out in front of you on Main Street, let's say, and you sit back 60 feet off of that, your property is 60 foot deep, or your house is 60 foot away, we would give it to you at no cost because it's less than 100 feet. So there's no cost to you whatsoever. The cost incurred is when you start, once you get gas, obviously you pay, there is a monthly meter charge that you have to pay, and then there's the gas cost, but there's no installation cost. Other than your cost inside your house to convert your furnace or whatever you got to convert.
Now, on the same question, that is from your main to the meter on the
From
structure?
the meter on the house.
Okay, and then from the meter in is on the homeowner?
You got it.
Okay.
Yep. We say everything outside, everything from the outlet of the meter is the homeowner's responsibility. Everything up to that point is gas company's
And if
responsibility.
there's money going up to go to sleep or whatever?
Well then, that gets into phase two that we're looking at. This is phase one, to get, to these three big areas. Phase two is to then start expanding into the rest of the borough. We would just start going up and down side streets as people say they want gas. Now that's kind of where you get into the sticky point, because if there's a street out here, I don't know, if there's a side street somewhere here, and you only get one customer that's interested in it, that's gonna be very tough in order for us to bring the main to that point, because we can't, it's just economically not there. But if you get enough customers to cover that 100 feet per customer, it shouldn't be a problem. And we run it down the street. So what we'll do in phase 3 of this is we're just gonna go and we're gonna start, we'll start over the summer next year, or spring and summer of next year, start canvassing all the rest of these areas and talking to the potential customers and people in the area and say, what do you want? We want gas. And if we get enough interest on a given street, then that will get sent over to engineering, and engineering will design that particular street, and we'll have that go on to the next street. We'll do that one, and we'll just keep going. If we can't get all the streets, and if we can't get a lot of the streets in phase 3, then we look at phase 4, and we just keep building out until someday it's totally saturated, or maybe it won't. It's hard to say.
Each phase you're considering 1 year, correct?
Yes.
Calendar year.
Yeah. Our construction, just like any other construction season, starts in May, hopefully, and November, December timeframe, sometimes not. So that's where we're at with this whole thing. We're just in here to introduce ourselves, make sure you guys understood where we're at. We're gonna have to be talking to your highway superintendent and others about permitting and what we need for that. Brian, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of how, I guess, we got invited here, and Aaron was gracious enough to take all my phone calls, because I was calling trying to find out, okay, who do we talk to about utility information, and who do we talk to about highway work permits. Most of our work is in the state highway, so we needed to understand that approval process, and if there was an approval process with the council here.
Lake Avenue is too.
Township.
Yeah.
That's state road.
I didn't know that, I thought you were talking about it as a street, but it's not, it's actually a state.
But I guess, yeah, I was thinking these ones in between, but, and again, is there an approval process? If we have our engineering drawings prepared, do you have an in-house engineer, somebody that want to review them in preparation for issuing us a highway permit, or is there any process?
I mean, there's a general permit process, I don't know, but we'd have to go back and look at the zoning.
That's the same thing. But as a courtesy, when the design plans are done, we obviously would submit it to your highway superintendent or whoever the person would be. So,
Ballpark cost, so the homeowner can compare what,
Comparison cost.
of what they pay now for their heat versus, your heat.
What we do right now is we have a packet of information, and in that packet has some ballpark costs of comparison of natural gas versus oil and propane. Those are really the two big ones. And, so it gives the homeowner a chance to say, hey, I'm pretty close to this. And really, most of them are. We picked a pretty standard, pretty typical situation and put those numbers in there. So I think, most people would fit in this.
I believe aren't most utilities, if they're doing enough, they can convert it over, like your furnaces and stuff.
Do a rebate or something? Or is that what you're saying?
I thought they could be changed, like guns and stuff, so they usually.
Oh, so propane, yes. If you have newer propane, most propane systems can be converted over. Oil can be converted over to natural gas, but depends upon the age of the system, right? And then, obviously the newer, higher efficiency stuff, you have a much better chance of converting it over to natural gas. Yep. And you just have to talk with your, find an HVAC guy or a plumber and heating and ventilating guy and see what kind of deals they can work with.
probably one other small point just to bring up is that the process that we're going to go through our engineers when they come through, we do the base mapping, and when they come through and actually look to where they want to lay out the main, they will also be looking at the front of every house and probably taking photos. I'm not going to have them go past the sidewalk and be intrusive. We're going to stay back and take photos, but if we get questions from the residents saying, why is people taking photos of my house? And they'll have badges on, but some sort of identification. So that's what I'll let you know.
Before you start that process, you'll let us know.
Absolutely. Sure. It's gonna be in the next few weeks.
It will be the next few weeks?
I will call you.
Oh, okay, because I'm sure we'll have people
Questioning it, yeah.
saying,
Oh, yeah.
hey, what?
And if the press would run something in the paper about that,
You guys will have a marked unit, truck or something that's marking.
No, most of our engineers drive their own vehicles. We could put a DES sign.
Why don't you put a DDS engineering sign on it, yeah, that way we know.
That makes sense.
From the police part, we usually get called, there's something that's unmarked in somebody's driveway.
I get a little nervous about it.
I mean, they'll be approached and asked what they're doing there.
Absolutely.
No, I'll carry ID and everything like that. Yeah, so you guys, this could, like you said, this could be end of September, early part of October when you start to put it out. We just gotta get through the permitting process, it takes a long time. That's where we're kinda late on this one, is the design and engineering and permitting took a lot longer than we expected here, so we're a little bit later than we really wanted to be on it. We don't wanna get caught in that same thing next year.
Is, one last one for me, is the cost of this gas different than the cost of gas in other areas?
The cost of, yeah, it will be, I can't tell you exactly how much different, but it will be less expensive because you're getting natural gas that is drilled here and it is found here and it is not being transported out of this gas coming here, it won't be transported.
I mean, just for example, here versus Bingham.
Right,
Yes.
here versus Scranton.
Yes.
Scranton,
Well,
natural gas isn't necessarily
it's probably going down in Scranton.
down, but.
Binghamton's a better example because Binghamton's gas right now is all, 99% of it's probably transported across transmission lines, coming up out of the Gulf, coming out of Canada. And so, of course, those costs, that's a good question. The costs are incurred on natural gas because of the transport from point A to point B. The longer distance you gotta transport it, the more cost that gas is gonna be to the end user. The shorter the distance that is, then the less the cost of that transportation is. So you guys will see a better cost on the natural gas than you might see elsewhere because of that. Let me a little bit about Corning natural gas. Corning natural gas is the 50% owner of Leatherstocking. Leatherstocking was made up of two other companies, Corning Natural Gas and the other one is Bridgewater. Corning Natural Gas in Corning, New York gets 70% of its natural gas from Pennsylvania, taken from you. But it's staying local. I mean, we're not taking it too far. And we're serving it to our customers there. Because of that, we have dropped their costs considerably. I can't tell you exactly what percentage, but it's quite a cost savings to them because we're using the local gas. Transports a lot shorter distance to get there, so the answer is definitely you guys would see a saving over somebody else that might have.
Can I ask a random curiosity question?
Sure.
Does fuel price usually go down when people start converting to gas too?
Overall, you mean if we, oh, I see, so you're saying the more we get connected here, would the fuel prices go down? No, probably not.
I just wondered if lack of demand.
Right, causes it to go higher. No, because the PSC wouldn't allow us to do that. We have to, the PUC, sorry, we have to set a rate with them. Public Utility Commission requires us to set a rate, natural gas rate ahead of time. And so you set a rate and they agree to it. I mean, we couldn't just do it without their knowledge and without their input. Together we set this rate, and that rate stays the same until we go back in and ask for another rate. And they wouldn't allow us to go, well, it's high now because there's not enough people on it, and then drop it. They don't, for whatever reason, they don't do that. They just come in and say, let's set it at this number. And then they kind of try to look ahead, and they try to see what it's going to be like ahead, and so they set it at a kind of consistent rate all across the board.
Does that same theory apply to oil and propane as well?
So that does not.
So that might be a question.
How many emergency shut-off valves along the
Along the route?
Is there a formula for that?
They're not in distribution, there really isn't, but what we're gonna do is, we're gonna have an emergency shutdown valve here at the gate station. That will be both manually and remotely operable. So if somebody manual can, we got a person heading that way, they can get there and they can manually shut that valve. We can also shut it down remotely from our small gas control at corner natural gas. So that's one. We're gonna put a valve somewhere right in the middle. I can't exactly say where it is. It's gonna be somewhere in the middle. There's gonna be a valve on the 6-inch. And then there's gonna be valves on the McCollum Road. There's gonna be just on the McCollum Road one. And then there will be a valve here on this piece going up the old county road, and a valve on the piece going out towards the borough. So there's quite a few valves there. And then as we get into the borough, there will be valves in various locations throughout. And it's more or less, you sectionalize it so that if you do have to shut it off, you don't lose a whole lot of customers if you do have to shut it off. But we'll put enough in so you can do that, yet not so many in that it becomes an annoyance for the plows and that kind of thing. You gotta kind of weigh that against what the municipality feels. The beauty of this is all polyethylene material too, so the beauty of that, not only do you have the valves, but it also gives you the ability to squeeze it if you have an emergency. You can actually dig down to it, get a set of hydraulic clamps on it, and actually squeeze it closed. And that way you got instant, not instant, but you got tight shut off, and it's real convenient. So anywhere you can dig after these are put in, this is put in, you can dig back down to it and squeeze it off. So it gives you those two options between the valves and the squeeze off.
At the city gate, do you have control of all the other valves, or
No.
is that the master?
That's the master valve. Okay.
Any other questions?
Is there anything else?
I just have one, is there somebody I should talk to about coming in to do record research? Is it a panel we can set up, or is there one person in particular I should call, perhaps Aaron?
No, right, sorry.
You want to know to contact the record research.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to leave a stack of cards here for you folks. If any of the neighbors call, if there's any issues that happen during the engineering or even the construction process, anybody on this board can certainly contact me.
All right, well, thank you all very much, and if at any time you guys got any questions, please, you got our cards, so give us a holler, and we can answer any of the questions or concerns that might come up.
What are your names again?
Matt Cook. C-O-O-K. How do you spell your last name?
Brian Sorocki. It's S-O-R-O-C-H.
S-O-R-O-C-H-T-Y.
T-Y.
Thank you.
And don't watch me put this away, it's not as impressive.
Is it I-A-N or Y-A-N?
Okay?
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
letting
you.
me know. Very much.
Take care. Have a good evening.